You know marketing's super, super important, right? I know you do because you listen to this podcast. And if you listen to me for any length of time, you'll know that I think marketing is everything. But today, for something a little bit different, we're going to talk about outsourcing your marketing. Yep, let's have a chat about what you can do if you are too busy to market your own business.
Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast,
Brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au.
Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hey there, my podcast family. Welcome back and welcome to episode 54 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. As usual, thank you so much for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there and I sincerely appreciate you making me one of them. If you're a first-time listener, then big welcome, super, super welcome to you. I'm so happy to have you here today with me. I'm the host, Jen Donovan, and it's my job via this podcast, via my social media and everywhere else that I live to make your life a little bit simpler. Business can be a little bit lonely, a little bit hard, and sometimes even a little bit complicated. And it's hardly ever easy. So that's what I'm all about. I'm all about simplifying your business because even though it's never simple, it definitely should be simpler. And that's my commitment to you in 2020 and the Small Business Made Simple podcast. On a bit more of a somber note, as I'm actually recording this podcast, my farm is actually filled with smoke. Visibility is actually down to less than 100 meters. On a bit more of a somber note, as I'm actually recording this podcast, smoke actually fills my farm and visibility is down to less than 100 meters. And the really sad thing is the fires are quite some way away from me. They're at least an hour away from my farm here on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. So I really can't imagine what it must be like for you guys or any listeners out there who have family and friends that are a lot closer. If you're not listening to this podcast in real time, which of course is January 2020, then you might be wondering, fires? What fires? So I'm sure that it will take us a long time to forget the fires that started way back, but of course, have certainly heightened in January of 2020. My heart, like so many of you, actually bleeds for those who are going through something, I hope, quite selfishly, that I will never actually experience myself. I'm lucky my firefighting hubby hasn't gone away. The local trucks certainly have, but he stayed because, we need people here to protect our district as well in case something happens closer to home. But of course, there are a lot of people who have actually said goodbye to their husbands and their wives and other family members to go and fight these big fires. And although my podcast is not a place for making big statements or inserting my personal opinions on anything other than marketing and social media, it is a voice to encourage some humanity. So right now, we need more compassion than ever, more humility than ever, and grace for things that we really just don't understand. So again, if you're not listening to this in real time, then this next bit might be a little bit strange for you. So please forgive me. But with human lives lost, with farm stock lost, and birds and animals in the millions lost, I just want to really take this opportunity to perhaps just have a minute silence on the podcast while we think about how lucky we are with our lives that we actually have. So there's no real way to come back from a minute's silence without being awkward. So I'm just going to get straight into the episode, but really appreciate you taking that time with me. And I do think it's a little bit fitting that today my podcast guest is actually another rural girl just like myself. And I'm been pretty excited to connect with that rural ladies who are doing amazing things. There isn't a lot of us out there, or maybe there is. So if you are a rural lady doing amazing things, please get in contact. I would really love to touch base with you and just connect with other really amazing rural women doing amazing things. But today my guest is Mell Millgate. So her business is actually Starfish Marketing and she lives in Rutherglen. If you haven't heard of Rutherglen, then you're possibly not a wine drinker. Rutherglen has some of the best fortifieds and the best reds in the world. I mean, in the world. But anyway, I'm digressing with wine, which is never a great place for me to go in a podcast recording. Mell reached out to me actually about mid to late 2019. And look, we've clicked ever since. It was just like I found a kindred spirit when I found Mell. You know, two rural girls talking marketing, but doing very different things, as you'll hear on the podcast, with marketing. You see, Mell runs a marketing agency, and that's pretty much why I've asked her on the podcast today. How many emails and unsolicited ads do you see with, these amazing promises and guarantees if you just sign up with this particular agency and let them do your social media for you? Would you get 10 a day? Would you get 20 a day? Yeah, there's lots of them, isn't there? Like, they're almost as frequent as, let me do your SEO. I promise to get you on the first page of Google. And I often say in my industry, there's enough marketing and social media people for just about every corner on every street in Australia. And I think marketing agencies are probably a little bit the same. So how on earth do you choose? How do you choose a marketing agency if that is in fact what you want to do? If you recognize that marketing is super, super important, but you don't have time or whatever that factor is for you, how do you choose? I think everybody who's listening to this podcast knows how important marketing is and how important it is for growing their business and their bottom line. But some of us don't have time. And so that's why I wanted to get Mell on the podcast today to give you some tips and tricks on how to find someone who is actually a good fit for you. So if you're thinking of employing an agency to take marketing off your plate in 2020, then this definitely could be an episode for you. If it's something you've never considered, listen along. There will be some great tips in there. And perhaps if it's something you won't consider at all, then still listen, because between Mell and I chatting marketing, we really reinforce some great marketing strategies in this interview. So well worth a listen to no matter where you are in your marketing. Without, holding Mell up any longer, let's get Mell from Starfish Marketing on the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today, Mell. Thank you so much for coming on. But I'm really excited because you are another rural lady doing awesome, awesome things. So that excites me extra. So welcome so much to the podcast today.
Thanks so much, Jen. I'm absolutely excited to be here. So thrilled. This is my very first podcast.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh,
yes.
Excellent. Oh, wow. That is brilliant. Excellent. I'm so glad I could be your first podcast person. So yay. Mell, I know you, but for those in my audience that perhaps don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about, Mell Millgate and Starfish Marketing and what you're all about?
Can do. So I own and operate Starfish Marketing. I live in Rutherglen. I have the home office in Rutherglen, and then we have another office in Albury, and a team member, Caitlin, who lives in Canberra. So we also say we have an office in Canberra. So located all over the place.
You're a national business.
Oh, no. It's all about how you position it, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I live on 11 acres with my partner, Josh, just on the outskirts of Rutherglen. And I'm a bit of a gypsy, so I didn't grow up here. I grew up on a farm outside of Orange and have also lived in Canberra and Bathurst, Sydney, Wagga, landed in Rutherglen about 20 years ago with the intention of only staying 2, and fell in love with the place.
I so you didn't fall in love with Josh and stay, you just fell in love with the place.
Yeah, you called me out there. Okay. Yes, met Josh and the rest is history.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Happens to all of us, I think, or
It
the best
really
of us.
does. It
Yeah.
really, really does. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And what do you do at Starfish Marketing?
So we predominantly help small businesses make their marketing happen, pretty much. So that's I come from I've been in marketing for sales and marketing for about 20 years, more than 20 years. That's a bit scary. And one thing, I've worked from small family businesses through to global corporates. And you see all the time that the small business owners wear the hat of everything, and marketing always falls to the bottom of the list and just doesn't get done. So that's where we're
and I'm
coming.
sure all my listeners have got the head nod test going about now. That sounds like me. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for any of my listeners who are out there and they've got this little query in their brain, why is Jen having someone on the podcast who does marketing like she does? So the real difference, like, between Mel's business and my business is Mel actually does the marketing for her clients. So she does the socials and things like that. And she will go into more than that clearly as we head into the podcast, whereas I teach that. So that's the difference. And that's why I wanted to have, like I said in the intro, that's why I wanted to have Mel on the podcast, because there's so many what will we say, rogues out there? Can I say rogues out there that, promise the world with doing people's marketing and doing their actual social media for them. And, these people are getting burnt. And I don't think I start a conversation very often with people, whether I meet them through workshops or at networking events or whatever it is, it's like that haven't been burnt at some stage. And so I thought I need someone on the podcast to tell us, what to look out for and what, someone who's really good or an agency that's really good, what they can do for you, as well as asking questions, to find out whether those people are a match for you. So that's exactly why I've got Mel on the podcast today with us. That's just the way my thought process was, that I need someone on the podcast to help all you people out there who might be thinking, I need someone to help me do my marketing, not teach me your marketing. So Mel, if someone wants someone to do their marketing for them, they want someone to do their social media for them, and that, where do they start? How do they find someone? What tips and tricks have you got around that?
Yeah, Google is a good friend in that instance. But I will go back to, I think word of mouth is still the best form of marketing.
Yeah.
Ask people that, like, business owners, we talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to other business owners and see if if they're working with someone or if they know of someone. It sounds really parochial, but if you can find someone local, that gives you a sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, fly by nighter, so to speak, or not going to, take your money and run. When we live in rural areas, especially, and even towns the size of Albury or cities the size of Albury Wodonga, people still talk. And if you don't do the right thing by people, the word gets out. So the first instance in that, starting to talk to your your family, your friends, your team, your other business owners that your colleagues and cohorts. Then Google, because if a marketer's good at what they're doing, they should be coming up on Google.
Oh, that old chestnut. Yes, we should. We should. Yeah, most definitely. Yes, put our best work forward.
Yes. And it's amazing. I get probably 10 emails a day that go straight to my junk mail from rogue agencies
Mm.
telling me they couldn't find me on Google and I need to work with them to, do things. I rank number one. So,
So clearly they have not done their research.
yeah. And that's a good point as well. So if you do reach out to someone, to a marketing business or a marketing agency, and you go down the track and set up a meeting with them to have a chat about what you're looking for. If they're good, they should do their research on you and know about you before you walk in the door.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think it's a really great way, if you take it back being selfishly to us, it's a really great way of standing out from the crowd. So no matter what business you are, if you have consultants or consultant clients, to go in there armed with information sometimes really blows their socks off. Like if I have a call with someone and said, so I've been on your Facebook or I've had a look at your website, and they're like, oh, really? Oh, so straight away you've developed that, caring, know, like, trust, or you're starting to, create the know, like, trust factors for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if so they've gone through the process, they've found an agency, where do you start from there? Because notoriously, us small business owners, we have a lot inside our brain. So how do you, as a marketing agency, unpack that into social media for them?
Yeah, well, I've heard you say this as well, because I listen to your podcast.
Oh,
I
wow.
thought it's awesome and I love it. Is start with the end in mind.
Oh,
So,
yes. My favorite saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. We always have a discussion around, well, what are you wanting to achieve with your marketing? And, that could be increasing the awareness of the business itself. It could be more foot traffic into the door. It could be more sales. What is it at the end of the day that they want to achieve? And then when you know that then potentially helps you identify the type of agency to choose.
Yeah.
So if, for example, someone says, actually, my goal is to be able to do the marketing myself, I would be going, well, you need to be talking to Jen. Because she can teach you how to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it's someone who is looking to completely rebrand and they want a whole new concept for their brand, we would then refer them to a graphic design specialist, or a marketing agency that specializes in branding.
Yeah.
Because that's not us. If they want someone to do their marketing for them and identify what's going to get them the best outcomes and then go and build a plan and do that for them, then that would be us.
Yeah.
So it's having that what you want to achieve, that goal, that end in mind is the most important starting point.
Yeah. And a really great lesson there for any small business owners that are listening with just what Mel was saying, know what you want to be famous for. Mel wants to be famous for doing people's social media and things like that. She doesn't want to be famous for, rebranding strategies and things like that. So, it's important to keep our own business goals in our mind when we onboard new clients. So I just picked up on that and just want to, put that out there in the world again for the audience that's listening is, know what you want to be famous for. And, as much as you can, stick to that. Just don't take the work because the work's there and try and build the business around the work that you're attracting, I guess.
Yeah. It's okay to say no.
Yeah. Yes, sometimes it's really hard in small business to say no, but yes, it is definitely okay to say no. That's for sure.
And if you do it the right way, sorry to interrupt
you're
there.
Right.
But if, like, I had actually a phone call yesterday from a gentleman, and he asked me, he was like, I'm looking at this, and I went, yeah, we're probably not the right people. When you're at the point where you need help with marketing, I'm your girl.
Yeah.
But you're before that. here's who I think you should talk to. And I gave him an introduction to a friend, Amelia, who works in the space that he needs help.
Yeah.
And they've connected and they're having a meeting next week. And, you know, even though I'm not necessarily getting a new client out of it, we've done the right thing by him by pointing him in the right direction to someone who can help. Now, he'll remember that.
100%. You took the words out of my mouth. He will remember that.
Yeah.
And he'll remember it, A, when it is time and he needs you, and B, as a beautiful referral source. You know, I contacted these people. They were so great. They couldn't help me, but they gave me the beautiful Amelia who could. Yeah. That's the way business works. That's awesome. When
Collaboration.
Yes, collaboration. That's it. When you're choosing an agency, I meant to say, you know, back when we were talking about that, but when you're choosing an agency, how much does gut feel come into it? Or, you know, in both ways, you know, you getting a gut feel from a new client and vice versa. Do you think that we should be listening to our guts?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen it too many times, even with before I started Starfish, you know, working in corporate world. And there's, you know, processes you can go through and checklists you can, you know, tick off, and certain questions that you can ask prospective marketing agencies to work with. But at the end of the day, I always say, choose someone you click with.
Yeah.
So, which is the gut thing. If you, even with say tendering process, if you're, you know, go through a tendering process for, you want marketers to put a proposal together and you've got 3 or 4 coming in, putting a proposal together, I still always tell people to, even if the one's really high and say one's really low, but the one that's really low, they just don't get you, and that's clear in their proposal that they just don't get you, go with. And the one that's really high, it's very clear in the proposal that they get you and you've clicked with them, go with that higher value one. Because at the end of the day, if you choose the lower value one who you haven't clicked with, you'll be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and that low figure is going to escalate.
Yeah. You'll spend more money catching up than what you would, you know, if you had have taken the proposal that, even though it was more expensive, you knew that they were going to do the best job for you. Absolutely. Which is a great little segue into my next question, which was, and I guess this to me is where the rogueness comes in, money. So people employ an agency, they get told they'll get all this stuff and it'll cost them X amount of money. So how do you work out, like, and sometimes I think to myself, you know, these people need to realize the confused buyer doesn't buy. So if you send them a list of 300 things they'll get, it's just too confusing with them. But how do you work out that side of it? You know, how do you work out what your budget should be, or, you know, what it's going to cost versus what you should actually expect to get back for that money?
Yeah, knowing your budget is really important. It also goes back to the start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, your goals, and you can have a wish list of a gazillion things that you do, but those gazillion things might cost a gazillion dollars that we as small business owners generally don't have. So if the marketing agency that you're, you know, essentially talking to, they should, as part of that process, be able to identify what's going to get you a best return on your investment. In terms of identifying how much you can spend as a small business, well, you could ask your accountant and he's going to tell you less than what I would recommend to spend
He'll
on
say,
marketing.
what marketing? What do you want to spend money on marketing for?
They'll go, you're spending too much money on marketing. It depends whether you're getting a return on investment. But, you know, there's traditionally figures out there. If you're a startup, you need to spend 10%. if you're
Is that of turnover or profit?
it varies.
Yeah. Okay.
Like again, I always say Google is my friend. You Google it, and some say turnover, some say profit. I mean, startups don't generally have a lot of profit at the startup, so
That's
you
true.
would go probably turnover. At
Mhm.
the same time, 10% is a big amount
Yeah.
when you're starting up, but it is when you need it the most.
Mm.
So if you're starting up, whatever you can afford to put into your marketing, go with that. It might only be 1 or 2%, but make sure you allocate some of your some money towards your marketing. And then with that, that's where you work with the marketer to identify what's going to give you the best return on your investment. And once that marketing starts to be effective and your revenue increases and your profit increases, your sales increases, that's when you can bring in the additional stuff that you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, in conversations we've had in the past, it's just basically, you get what you pay for. And I guess, that's just, so important. I guess if you're employing someone and you are only paying them $200 a month and yet you're getting all this stuff or promised all this stuff, then chances are, what do they say? If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Too good to be true. Yeah.
Mm.
And then there's the converse, the opposite, where and I have heard horror stories of small businesses who've forked out, 10 grand to a rogue aid, and they've had nothing delivered.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely devastating. And they are rogues. So I ended up actually referring this business to another marketer, because what she needed help with, that other marketer had more knowledge around it than me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was sort of there's a bit of a story here. So a a marketer who worked with this business rang me to say, this has happened. She's in strife. Can you help her? And this other marketer, she was having some family health stuff, so she couldn't help. And I was like, okay, this was a Sunday. Went and met with this person, had a look at the situation and went, yep, I can't help you with that. So referred her to this other marketer. But what had happened was she had literally handed over thousands upon thousands of dollars to a rogue, had given them her personal passwords and access to.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then they didn't deliver on anything, and then were threatening her and saying she has to hand over all this extra money for them to, basically give her website and social medias and everything back.
Oh dear.
So the person I handed them over to was able to help. And again, it was a local person. The rogue was not.
So one of the things that I noticed about Starfish Marketing's website, Mel, which I guess I haven't looked at a lot of marketing, as in agency marketing websites, but the thing that really struck me is you've got your prices out there for everybody to see. This is how much it costs. This is what you're going to get. Is that something you've done strategically because your industry does get a bit of a bad rap?
It was done on purpose. I think there's the aspect of it for us is we are very open, and we, the no surprises thing is really important for us with working with clients. So put your prices out there, they know immediately also whether they can afford you or not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect.
So a real qualification of clients before they even get to you. Yeah.
Yep. But the other aspect is, the being open and upfront about, what we offer and what we do. So from that perspective, that was probably the approach to it. Probably didn't really think about industry so much when I was doing it. Although I also did it as a point of difference because it's very rare for marketing agencies to put their prices out there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess that's what really struck me when I, because I'm diligent and I did my little, background and that sort of thing, after, we had our first little chat and I was like, oh, I wonder what Starfish is about and things like that. And yeah, that really struck me. It was a little bit like, wow, okay, so they're out there for the world to see. You can afford me, you can't. This is what you get. This will cost more, and I just thought it was great that it was out there, no surprises, like you say, for your clients, which I think is so, so important when it comes to especially the industry that we live in, for sure.
Yeah. And it also loops back to the it's okay to say no.
Yep.
Because if someone, looks at my site and then approaches and says, but I can get it cheaper elsewhere, I'm like, that's okay. You can go and get it cheaper elsewhere. They're not the type of people that we necessarily then want to work with if they're price driven.
So, Mel, I guess, do you have any tips or tricks on how people can find a good agency? Anything that you often hear from your clients when they're first coming on board, or any sort of tips? Because I think it is a bit of a maze for people to try and work out. Well, maybe we should take that back a step now. I've gone to say that. But take a step back. How does someone come to the conclusion that they need an agency? What do you see is the pain points of your clients that they go, all right, I need this help. I need someone else to take this off my plate.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I would say every small business owner I know knows that marketing is important. Like, they all know it. We all know marketing is really important, but it always falls to the bottom of the list. So it doesn't get done. And I think
there's a reason why my mission statement has to make people make marketing a priority. That's the mission statement, because exactly what you say, marketing with so many small business owners is when I've got time.
Yes, they've experimented doing things themselves, but it hasn't worked. So they acknowledge that they're not marketers and they should bring marketers in, or they need to learn, which we'd send them to you. So that's one space. The other one is when they realise it's just never happening. They're never doing any marketing, and they understand that it is important, and that they need to be doing it. So that's when that's where we see them coming to us as well. Probably economic influence has some influence on that. In terms of, with the drought, we're seeing a little bit of increase in inquiry, and that, people spend less in rural areas when there's a drought. So they're like, okay, well, we need to be doing something to get our name out there, to get people to buy from us, spend what little dollars, they might have. So those types of things can be influential. Conversely, when it's good times as well, it's like, oh, okay, well, we're in a position financially, we can actually go and spend some money on getting our marketing done.
Yeah, that is so true. That is definitely so true. Yeah. Yeah. So they've realized they've got these pain points. Either they're not doing it, but they know it's important, or they are doing it and they just no longer want to. They know it's working and they're prepared to invest in it. So how do they find someone? What's those sort of steps that you see other than Google? And I know we talked about Google and we talked about, referrals and that, should they be doing their research and going through the socials of the agency, having a look at their website? And if so, what sort of things should they be looking for? Like, should they be looking for consistency, or that should they be looking for, like that graphically it looks good, aesthetically it looks good? What are those little what are those little points that people can go, yep, okay, I think these people are for me, I'm going to pick up the phone?
Yeah. I think if on the socials, on the website, the tone of voice that's used, is, if you're reading the content on the website or the socials and you're going, oh, they get that, yes, and doing the head nod.
The head nod test. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then that's the trusting your gut again. Go, okay, well, yep, they look like I could connect with them. If it's a really, corporate style site and you're not corporate, don't necessarily discount that. If they blog or podcast or do something like that, listen to their content or read their content and see if you can if what they're saying is understandable from a non-marketing perspective. If they use lots of jargon, I would that's something I advise people to avoid in any industry. Yeah, is that's unless you're doing industry to industry, avoid the jargon.
Yeah.
So that tone of voice, that language that's used, imagery, if they're using images that you connect with. The social media is interesting because there's the whole argument of the curated feed, which is beautiful and pretty, versus the real feed.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends again on, go back with the end in mind, what are you actually looking for? So if you're looking for some to end up very stylized and you're looking at the social media feed and it's a very real feed, then they're potentially not going to be able to do the stylized for you. However, in saying that, that's where your testimonials come in. Check out who their clients are. If they're good, they'll have testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can stalk the businesses that are their clients. Even be brave and reach out to
And I would highly recommend that, Google the business, pick up the phone. Hi, just wondering, I saw a testimonial, blah, blah, blah. And, find out whether it's legit, find out whether it's 15 years old, find out whether, a little bit more. People should be willing to help you and give you that sort of information. If they don't, that's okay. Say thanks very much.
Yeah. But if they're, if they've been, come back, it's client love. So if they've been happy enough to give you a testimonial or give the marketing agency a testimonial, chances are they're going to be comfortable just going, yep, we work with them, we love them, they're great. Or no, we stopped working with them 6 years ago.
So I guess, at the end of the day, we've got to have our own goals before we even go looking for an agency, work out what our own goals is, what our budget is, and whether or not, we can find someone who talks like us, has a similar tone to us and things like that.
Yeah. There's a whole, we attract our tribe.
Yes. Like attracts like.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's much easier to work with someone who is like you or who gets you. And they usually get you if they're like you in some way or another.
Yeah. 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 And also, I guess when you're reading blogs and things like that, have a look at, how they're written and, read quite a few. Are there different people blogging with different types of tones and that sort of thing? If you're a retailer and, your agency seems to talk a lot about service, then, that, I guess it's not totally discount them, but, have that in mind that maybe they're not retail based. Because, they say every business is the same, and I say every business is a marketing business. But at the end of the day, if you sell a service, it does look a little bit different to trying to sell a product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a mix of both, product retail clients and service clients, and what we do for them is quite different.
Mel, this has been really good. I hope my audience has enjoyed this as much as I have. It's just been really great to hear from a different perspective. Like, marketing is marketing, but there's so many arms of marketing. So it's been really good to have a bit of a chat to you, especially, from, helping people find how they can find someone that they can do their marketing for them and how to go about doing that. But do you have any final parting words or a tip or a trick or something we haven't quite covered here yet?
Probably the final thing is when you're working with, so you've chosen your marketing agency to work with, that we can have very strong opinions as marketers.
No, I'm cutting that bit out.
So I think it's important to remember it's your business. So you know your business best. Take the advice, always take the advice, but if it feels icky, don't do it.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's really great sound advice, and it's actually great life advice as well. Yeah. Thank you. That is very good advice for any small business owner to think. I guess it's the same when people are giving you some sort of marketing advice. If it doesn't feel right for your business, question it.
Yeah. Or if it's not aligned with your end goal. So, it's the new shiny thing and the marketer's going, look at this new shiny thing. It's very easy to get distracted by the shiny things.
Yes. BSOs, bright, shiny objects.
Yes. So, make sure it aligns with your end goal and doesn't make you feel icky.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Mel, if you've said something on the podcast today, or if someone wants to get in contact with you and chat a little bit further, what's the best way they can get in contact with you?
Well, all my details are on the website, which is starfishm for marketing.com.au. And that's probably the easiest way. You can phone me from there, you can email me from there, you can book in. So
beautiful. And I will have a link to that in the show notes, guys. So you can just go to my website and get that link from the show notes as well. All right. Thank you so much, Mel. This has been quite an education. I've really loved talking to you and learning a little bit more about agencies. And hopefully we can catch up again really soon.
Love to. Looking forward to a coffee.
Coffee? We drink wine.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. We're not supposed to share that. We do at lunchtime, are we?
No, we're not. Thanks heaps, Mel.
Thank you. It's been an absolute ball. I've loved it.
Thank you. Catch you soon. I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. And that's it for episode 54. So let's hit the ground running in 2020. I know it will be as epic as you make it. And remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. So some big love, my podcast family. I will, of course, be back next Thursday with another cracking episode, guaranteed. If you're enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I've got some bonus episodes coming up very shortly. So if you've subscribed, you will actually get those as well. And if you feel like you're in a gift-giving mode still after Christmas and New Year, please share the podcast with a friend or leave me a rating and a review wherever you listen to this podcast. I would so appreciate that. Those things are like gold for podcasters like me. As I said, that's all for episode 54. I'd love to connect with you on social media, so let's get social on social. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or you could join my Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. So let's make that something you do this week. And of course, remember my small business peeps as I finish my podcast every single episode. And of course, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
Tell like I feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are.